Good evening. This is Tuesday, October 15th, and this is a regular meeting of the Planning Commission. And we will start with roll call.
All right, Stiles.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Zaremski.
Here.
DeVore Leonard.
Here.
Osterholm.
Here.
Thank you. Also present is Planning and Zoning Administrator Meg Leatherman.
Great, thank you. We'll quickly review the agenda. Does anyone have anything that needs to be added? If not, then we need a motion to approve our consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded for approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It is approved. Okay, the next thing we have is review of our minutes, and we'll start with our September 10th regular meeting. Does anybody have any changes? Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Then our next set of minutes is from our work session on September 25th. And I did have two corrections. On the second page, maybe a fourth way down, where it has about the AMI, I said 80%, not 30%. Now, maybe I mumbled or something, but it was 80%. And then on the last page, it has Stiles asked whether the units would be affordable. I believe that was Brown, because I had already asked, and he had already responded to me. And Carmen came in late, and Carmen asked about the affordable units. So I think that's on the third page, Brown.
Thank you.
Any other corrections or changes? If not, I move approval of these work session minutes with the corrections. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, we've got the minutes. And then do we have any communication? Well, no. Yes, communications. Nope. Okay. Then we're on to our reports. Active Transportation Committee.
I have 4 short comments.
Great.
One is the Mills Long Bike Bus effort has had 7 successful weeks this school year, with as many as 50 children biking to school on Wednesdays. The 50 children, that'd be 20% of the students that particular day. Programs
And are
taper.
they just biking on Wednesday?
Yes,
Okay,
just
so it's
Wednesday morning.
a planned thing that they're all trying to bike on Wednesday.
Yeah, and they start at maybe 4 different locations, and there's a bunch of parents and community members that join them.
Right.
And this was sort of I don't want to call it a trial because it was a little more than a trial, but the program it'll be tapering off now, and it'll pick back up in the spring, and we'll see how it evolves.
Great.
Second, as everybody knows, the Yellow Springs Schools construction is underway, and Active Transport will support the school's efforts to apply for Safe Routes to School funding for both non-infrastructure, such as programming, and infrastructure, such as sidewalks, activity associated with that. So Active Transport in some manner will be involved with that project. And I'm not exactly sure how, but we'll see how that develops. Also, this in a month from now, there'll be a downtown walking audit the afternoon of Friday, November 15th, that will be used for involved with the update to the village's active transport plan. I haven't read through it carefully, but the idea is walk through town and, with an eye on what's the current active transport plan and what makes sense, what doesn't make sense in terms of moving forward, enhancing it, or whatever.
Sorry, that's the 15th?
Friday, November 15th in the afternoon.
Do you know what time?
I don't know the exact times.
Okay. 3 to 5:30.
Okay, yeah.
What time did you say?
3 to 5:30. It will be advertised very many places very
Okay.
soon.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
And then last, Active Transport will be involved in a presentation this Friday. The Regional Active Transport Committee, which is a Miami Valley Regional Planning Committee activity, is being hosted by Rails and Trails, having a meeting here in Yellow Springs, in which Active Transport Chair Chris Bongiorno and Village Manager Johnny Burns will share a presentation on local efforts. It'll be followed by a walking tour of recent transportation investments. So that's what I have.
Great. Well, it's wonderful that you had a report.
Yeah.
We're always waiting for it.
Yeah, I know. I'll try to use this as a standard for the future.
Yeah, well, great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any questions for Gary? Okay. Okay, then we have council. Gavin, do you have anything?
Yeah. Okay, on October the 7th, council heard the first reading of ordinance 2024-11, which would approve the planning commission's recommendation to rezone one parcel totaling 3.612 acres of property at 420 East Enon Road from RA to RC. The second reading and public hearing are scheduled for October the 21st, so that's the school property that we talked about recently. At the same meeting, council heard ordinance 2024-12, which would approve the final plat for Spring Meadows Phase 2. The second reading and public hearing are scheduled for October the 21st. And then council approved bringing a resolution granting the Tecumseh Land Trust $113,000 towards conservation of farmland in the township to the October 21st meeting. Council approved the nomination of Mark Carr and Chad Runyon as Planning Commission alternates. So there's people nipping at our heels, okay?
Great.
Both were sworn in on October the 7th.
Oh, right.
In all seriousness, they seem like they're ready if we need them. The Windsor Group request for a PUD on fewer than 5 acres, for which the work session was held with this group on September 25th, goes to council for a decision on October the 21st. And then efforts to secure land, both land for housing and replacement soccer field land, in order to proceed with securing a developer who can then apply for low-income housing tax credit financing continues. The efforts continue. Council held a joint meeting with the school board on September the 25th. It was a very busy day for me and for anyone else who went to both meetings. To exchange information on this topic. Many questions were asked, and in an effort to begin addressing these comprehensively, a link on the village homepage will be created this week with a Q&A document and other relevant documents that have been gathered throughout the process. And the low-income housing tax credit efforts have been acknowledged as taking the majority of staff time at this point, meaning other efforts have been slowed or paused as needed. So just as a sort of capacity FYI, that is what's been going on. And as usual, thank you, Judy, because she did all of that work. Those are the updates.
Not all the LIHTC, just making some notes
Well,
there.
the writing that I read just now.
Great, well, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Gavin?
I have a question, but only if there's a short answer, because if not, it'd be a discussion outside. Like the first two items, when there's something being proposed of some sort, I forgot if those were, what's the term for those?
The ordinance? Or
Ordinances and rezoning and stuff like that. There's always two readings. It comes to two meetings, okay? And from my limited experience, it seems generally the first reading, not much goes on, and then the second reading, there's a lot of if there are questions, it all happens there. I'm just curious why there's two readings if it's always, before the meeting, it's always publicized in terms of the content.
You're saying they should only do the second reading?
Well, I'm just wondering.
Just go right to the second one?
I'm just wondering why it's two steps.
Because charter.
Pardon?
Because charter. That is a requirement of the charter.
Okay.
So the first reading is never, it's noticed only on the agenda. The actual ordinance does not appear in the paper until after the first reading. The public hearing is always the second reading.
Okay, so the first one is sort of like a kickoff and prepping.
Well, the code, that's what the code says, which is what the charter is, but also I think the intent is to make the community and the council or aware of the materials there. And
Okay.
that's going to be coming, so they can then review it and then have the public hearing, everyone weigh in on it at the same time.
Okay, to enhance awareness of it coming. Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on housing from staff?
I don't think so.
You know, you had a report last month.
Yeah.
And we didn't discuss it, and we said we would discuss it this month. Do you want to then share that?
An overview of the kind of where we're at with different projects. I probably would be better if we could do that the next month, because, and skipping ahead probably to the agenda scheduling, like I don't have any applications for next month, so
Okay.
maybe I could do like a more,
And you might want to, if you gave us any materials, you might want to send them out again so that people can look at them again.
yeah. And then
Okay.
we could also notice the public and make them aware of it.
Okay.
I guess just one thing, kind of point of clarification, housing-wise, on something that Gavin and Judy and I have been working on is just communication-wise, not actually working, but Gavin just said that there's an item on council's agenda on the 21st for how did you word it, the 5-acre PUD, and this is related to the Windsor development at the Antioch School site. It's a criteria in the code that the council pre-approve a submittal of the application for a property PUD on less than 5 acres. I have been trying to communicate with the development team from Windsor on whether or not they want to continue to move with that item on the 21st, and have not been able to get direct communication. So that could be continued to another day. And so since Gavin mentioned it, I just want to clarify for people who are interested in following the project that it might not be on the 21st, but I think we've been trying to overly communicate about the project in general. So we've been keeping it on as a placeholder in case it does actually end up going forward. So the time frame is that we will know for certain Friday. And I've also created a contact list for interested parties on the project, a group contact list, and I've been sending out updates, and I intend to send out an update specifically to that group once I get the full information about whether or not it's going to continue and have it on the 21st agenda.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, just for quick clarification, make sure you say Antioch College, because
What did I say? School?
Antioch School, and there's people
You did
with
say
that.
I know.
All of people like, they're destroying the Antioch School now?
Well, there's different property that
Right.
with different
Yes,
things
yes.
going
I
on.
know a lot of, with the high school people with the Antioch School, and stuff, so yeah, that's a,
Maybe we should come up with a name I should use. Like, should I just say Student Union, Old Student Union
Yeah, that's a
Building?
good,
Okay.
we understand what that is.
I'll just start using that name.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, we're at the point in our agenda where we have citizens' comments. Citizens' comments are for anything that we're not having a public hearing on. Judy did remind me that with citizens' comments, if you're commenting on something that is going to be coming to us eventually, you will need to come back and comment again, because what you say now, we're not supposed to take in consideration of making our decisions. Is that correct, Judy?
Right, you can't cite it as one of your considerations in making a finding. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, we will certainly hear it, though. So this is the time, we ask that you speak for no more than 3 minutes, but anything you would like to say, please come forward, state your name, and then you can talk. Please come ahead.
Okay. My name is Tom Degenhart. I'm talking about the old student union. And I know I'm going to have to come back to do this over and over again, but they're going for PUD zoning. They meet virtually none of the codes. But mainly what I'm going to address is density and parking. In the village, there are the three largest apartment complexes are Hawthorne, Twin Coach, and Lawson Place. If you add those units all together, that comes to 123 units. They're proposing 128 units on 1/7 of the land. So similar size, tiny area. So super high density for the area. Neighborhood, not so much. We're a single-family neighborhood. The parking standards, normally it's required for 2 parking spaces per unit. This has less than 1. They have 107 spaces as opposed to what normally would be 256 required for their size thing. State handicap guidelines for parking spaces for this size lot requires 5 spaces. They have 2 on their plan. So we're going to lose a few spaces that way because they're larger spots. So we're down a few. They don't address garbage. Usually dumpsters are in the parking lot. They take between 5 and if we throw in a couple dumpsters, it'll be between 5 and 6 less spots. So actually we're down to less than 100 parking spaces for this development right now. Hawthorne Place, 54 units, so less than half the size, has 121 spaces for 54 units. And they have 4 dumpsters in that parking lot. So, they exceed their thing. I know, as you all know, Saturday was street fair. Streets were jammed. I went out and counted cars. We've got them on both sides of the street, filling up the triangle. If we take the student union proposed lot of 100 spaces, 110 cars on the street causing hazardous situations, that still leaves 54, 56, whatever spaces that we don't have, cars we don't have accounted for. So they're going to go somewhere. We grant parking easements. It doesn't eliminate cars. It just pushes them somewhere else. This is the type of plan that would be dropped into a decaying urban neighborhood looking for revitalization. Our neighborhood's not decaying. We're thriving. There's an area on there that's kind of in the L shape that's kind of blocked out. It's kind of a green shaded area. It's like park space? What is that? That's houses. That's houses that are going to have a parking lot in their backyard that'll be lit up at night like a Walmart parking lot. They're going to come back and say, yeah, we did some tweaks. We don't need tweaks. We need responsible planning. This is not responsible. It's not good. It's not mediocre. It's a cash grab. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jerry Papanea. I've lived on Whiteman Street for over 35 years. And at the work session a couple weeks ago, one thing that was not addressed was stormwater mitigation. The site as proposed is going to be essentially 2 acres of impermeable surface. And the stormwater issue needs to be dealt with or addressed sooner rather than later, because it would either require a detention basin that would require real estate in the project, or a subterranean detention system like was installed at the Mills Park Hotel, which will add cost to the project. And this issue could add considerable cost to the viability of the project. So this is something that needs to be addressed up front to determine whether the project can go forward or not.
Thank you. Next.
I'm Kim Kalasa. I live on Livermore, right across from the proposed development. My biggest concern is traffic. And right now they're planning 128 units for basically a block. So that's roughly 250 people, 2 people per unit. We have a lot of walkers on Livermore. We have joggers, we have bicyclists, we have skateboarders, we have golf carts, and of course, cars and delivery vehicles. Delivery vehicles, 250 people in one block, they're going to be calling up like the rest of us do to Amazon and everybody and have things delivered. We're going to have a lot of that going on, much more than usual. I see a lot of children going back and forth to Mills Lawn to school. I'm concerned about the amount of traffic and their safety. Has anybody been talked to the police about whether they think there'll be any safety concerns about this building? Just wondering. Has the village attorney been consulted? If, heaven forbid, there is an accident, are we liable because so many zoning ordinances have been waived to make this happen? And is it possible, if it does go forward, that they could have access egress onto North College and extend North College to Corry and just have the egress come out basically on North College instead of on President and Livermore? Anyway, those are my biggest concerns. And also, who's going to be paying for the street to be enhanced? Is it going to be the village or is it going to be the developer? The President Street and North College. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. We appreciate your comments. Thank you. Okay, then we are going to move on to our public hearings, and the first is a conditional use. Darren Gilley has submitted a conditional use application for transient guest lodging at 410 North High. Meg, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, let me just do this. Is this, am I good with the audio? Okay. All right, this is a conditional use for transient guest lodging at 410 North High Street. The Planning Commission is the final decision maker for this application. The property is in the RB zone, and Darren Gilley is the property owner and applicant who's here tonight and can speak to the application. Adjoining property owners were mailed a notice on October 1st, 2024. Signs were posted on the property on October 4th. And a notice was published in the paper on October 4th. I prepared a staff report that outlined the applicable code and provided a copy of that to the Planning Commission on October 4th and also provided it on our website on October 4th. I'm starting to use vicinity maps on the computers now, so, and probably for some more complex ones, I'll have some of the plans on the computer and stuff, but also for the people at home. So up on the screen, you'll see the property we're talking about, and it is the one that's on the corner directly. There's a vacant lot on Pleasant and High Street there. He's constructing a new single-family home on that lot and has actually received approval of a variance for some setback relief along Pleasant Street previously, and would like to use a portion of that as a transient guest lodging unit, and has provided a floor plan that's provided in the packet in front of you tonight that indicates where that will be located. He owns the single-family home that's kind of overlaid onto two different lots that crosses the property line there, and wants to separate off. Well, he doesn't really have to do anything. He just has to construct a single-family home on that lot because he owns all three of them. So, and then I want to say that the closest existing transit guest lodging unit, or TGL, is what I'll probably refer to them. If you hear me say that, that's what it stands for. And again, that's our version of short-term rentals or Airbnbs. The closest existing one is 632 feet away at 417 Fairfield Pike. And I wanted to note that since the unit is not constructed yet, that our code has an expiration time frame on it. So if you should approve this tonight, he has to have started construction within 2 years and either commence the use within 2 years, or it automatically expires. So it complies with the code, and I'm recommending approval, and do have 5 conditions. 4 of them are kind of reiterations of the code that I like to include to make sure that they're aware of these requirements. But 1 is specifically for his situation. It requires that the owner provide proof of primary residency before completion of construction, prior to operating the TGL, to ensure, because that he is living in it when he rents it out, or he's going to have a long-term tenant living there, because that's what the code requires. Right now, he's living in the home, the existing one that's constructed already, but since he's newly constructing it, he's going to have to either completely move into the new structure or have a long-term tenant living there that's responsible for operating it. And so that's why I have that first condition in there, to provide proof of that, to comply with the code. And then the other conditions are related to obtaining a inspection from the Miami Township Fire and Rescue Department, and they will inspect to make sure that the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors are installed. And then also, I have a condition that says, do you want me to actually read them? I'm trying to explain them, but I could actually just read them word for word if you want. That's helpful.
Sure, go ahead and read them.
Okay. I'm trying to explain them, but... Did you have a question, Stephen? Sorry, you keep looking at me like you have one. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. I'm not used to that, actually. People listening. Okay. So the first one is the owner is required to provide proof of primary residency prior to operating the TGL. I'm going to see, yeah. And then an inspection, number 2 is an inspection by the Miami Township Fire and Rescue for the installation of smoke and carbon monoxide detectors must accompany the application for transient guest sorry, you didn't give it. I'm saying that he needs to provide an inspection by the Miami Township Fire and Rescue for installation of smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. That's a typo. I think I have that on both of them. And that the detectors will be inspected by MTFR, Miami Township Fire and Rescue, annually. And number 3 is transient guest lodging permits are non-transferable. A change in the ownership of the property will void the permit. And then number 4, completion of a transient guest lodging registration with the finance department is required annually, so every year and prior to initial occupancy. And then number 5, biannual reporting of all earnings must be returned to the finance director annually. Even if there are no earnings, we need to be made aware of that. A 3% lodging tax will be due with the reporting by April 15th and October 15th for the preceding 6 months annually. Okay. Did you get that, Julia? Okay. Made a couple of changes from the text. Okay. I'll stand for any questions.
So I got a question about, so you're saying that he has to live in the structure that he builds, but he owns, like, so we're treating these as 3 separate lots?
Yeah, our code allows that.
So he wouldn't be able to just build a structure there for transient guest lodging and just have it as a standalone thing and not live in it, even though he's going to live in the house next door to it?
I think he could explain how it's going to work when it comes up, but my understanding of how it's going to work is he's going to build the new home,
Yeah.
and then move into it, and then rent out the existing home that's there right now.
For long term?
Yes, for long term.
So the existing house is actually on 2 lots.
Yeah.
So they would be considered, if you haven't separated, that'd be considered actually 1 lot.
Yeah, right, in our code.
For taxes, yeah. So then it's the additional lot. Okay.
And he will have to go and probably get a new separate tax with Darren County and stuff. Again, he can probably explain it.
Separate tax document for all 3 lots.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce yourself and
My name is
tell
Darren
us
Gilley.
anything you want.
My name is Darren Gilley. I've been in town since 2011. I went to Antioch way back in the day, in the early 90s, and then moved back here so our kids could go to our wonderful schools. So I occupy that house, and I guess the easiest way is just to, if you guys have any questions about the plan, technically I have to move into the new one, or have somebody that's long-term rental. What I'm really trying to do is to stay in the house, have a place for my kids to come back to after they graduate, and make it affordable for me so I can start running around shooting documentary films again.
Oh, cool. I've
So
done that part.
it's a way to keep the space, and make it kind of viable. So
This is going to be made out of containers.
yeah. There's a lot done in Hocking Hills. I've spent 12 months researching this, so yes, I think it's going to be way cooler than a stick build, but different. Hopefully it'll even be tornado-proof in the future. And then I was looking at, once I get this built, I know we talked about sustainable housing, affordable housing, and I think these might be a great kind of idea later. It's a completely different subject, but I've got my PhD in anthropology and documentary filmmaking. Now I'm getting one in container building on my own.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, those will be
So-
on that.
So, just to clarify, so your property, you have 3 lots, you're not going to split off anything, it'll remain 3 lots.
Yeah, I'm not selling anything.
Yeah, and
And it's all
or
the same
even,
mortgage. It's all on one mortgage, which
Yeah.
I think we've got some codes out here that could probably be revised, but we know that takes forever. So just playing by the current rules, but
Yeah.
it's all one mortgage.
in my recollection, this is residential B, right? This area, so if I recall, aren't you allowed to have 2 houses on?
Yeah, we kind of pursued doing like the ADU or like a duplex, but I think, like, I don't understand the finance part very well, and so I think he's been able to determine, working with his bank and his mortgage and everything, that this is the easiest and best way to go.
Okay, yeah,
And also meet our
okay.
code.
That's interesting, though. I'll talk to you later about that.
So I just want to, so if he had those 3 lots made into 1 lot, okay, he would be allowed to have an accessory dwelling unit on the 1 lot. He could live in the house and just build an accessory dwelling unit, but because it's 3 separate lots, he has to live on the lot where the transient guest lodging is.
Not necessarily. I would say, first of all, an ADU does require conditional use approval, so it's not a guarantee. But, and then secondly, like, he has to live in, the only reason he has to live in this home right now is because he wants to use it for TGL. He wants to rent out a portion of it for transit guest lodging.
Okay.
I mean, if he just wanted to build a home there, we wouldn't even be here, but he wants to do the TGL. And I just mentioned that just because,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm probably saying too much. It opened up a can of worms or something, but,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just being a little proactive. Yeah, it's not built, but I want to make sure I can do that in there, because that's another, I'm looking at like future financial viability for me that would work. And everything else is going to be long-term. Affordable rentals. I'm looking at maybe Antioch students. And then
I thought would be useful to mention, and I've had some conversations with him previous on this. It's not a, many people would not consider this a conventional construction, what he's doing, but it'll be following all building codes and having engineering involvement and all that sort of stuff. And I think it'll be interesting looking once it's all done.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. Yeah, I got Norton Engineering. I talked to several conversations with NIC, and they seem more of like a friend in the building process than anything else, just like, keeping it to code. And they're like, get the structural engineers, because it's out of our purview, like we don't understand this. So I have a couple really cool structural engineers, Norton Engineering down in Dayton. They're local again. But yeah, it's going to be, like, the goal is not just code, it's to be tornado-proof, which was beyond code, which is another interesting thing in Tornado Alley here with, if you could install a 20-footer in your backyard and have a safe space above ground, which I'm looking at as well.
Okay. Any other questions for him? Anything else you want to say?
I've kind of been adding stuff as we went, but I think I'm good if there's no more questions.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions now among ourselves for Meg, or that you want to bring up?
I don't.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion?
You open the public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. We need to open our public hearing. Thank you, thank you. So we're opening our public hearing. Anybody who would like to come forward and speak on this proposed transient guest lodging, do come forward and say your name and speak whatever you want to say. And if we don't have anyone, then I will close the public hearing. So now, would anyone like to make a motion?
I can make a motion that we approve this with the conditions that are listed here, that the owner is required to provide proof of primary residence, that inspection by the Miami Township Fire and Rescue for the installation of smoke and carbon monoxide detectors must accompany the application, the transient guest lodging permits are non-transferable, the change of ownership, that's really, I guess, not a condition, that's just a statement of fact. Completion of transient guest lodging registration with the finance department is required annually, and a biannual reporting of all earnings must be returned to the finance director annually, even if there are no earnings.
Great.
That doesn't actually make sense. Biannual reporting must be returned annually, but okay.
And Scott has seconded.
Okay.
So Judy?
Yes. Zaremski.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Osterholm.
Yes.
Stiles.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it's approved. Thank you.
And I will clean it up to make more sense. And what I do is I usually clean it up, and then I send it corrected based on the intent of the Planning Commission's decision to Darren. And it'll be in the file.
He's in eyesight.
Okay. All right.
Okay, then our next one we have is a conditional use, Jeff Gray, for transient guest lodging at 365 East Enon Road. Meg, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. She's going to try to shut it. Aren't we so techy and cool now? It's the little things in life, right? Okay. This is another conditional use for transient guest lodging at 365 East Enon Road. The Planning Commission is the final decision-making body again. This is pretty much the same application, same criteria, just at a different location and a little bit different situation. And I'm just going to go through the stuff I like to get on the record about noticing. The property's in the RA zone, so there's a little bit different zone too. But Jeff Gray is a property owner and applicant who will speak to the application. He's here tonight. Adjoining property owners will mail the notice on October 1st, 2024. Signs were posted on the property on October 4th. A notice was published in the paper on October 4th. And a staff report was prepared that outlines the applicable village code, which provided to the Planning Commission and posted on our website also on October 4th. So this proposal includes sectioning off a portion of home for guests, for transient guest lodging, while a long-term tenant remains on the lower level as the operator of the transient guest lodging unit. Jeff recently purchased the property from a prior owner who also used TGL at this location. But he is not going to be living there. He's going to have an operator living on the lower level. This is a tri-level, and the operator will be living long-term, on a long-term basis, and the upper floors will be rented out for transient guest lodging.
But he lives in town, correct?
I believe yes.
So just before we leave this, so is that how the ordinance that does this is written, that it's that you can have, you don't actually have to live there if you have somebody else living there long-term who's operating it for you?
Yes, correct. It says, they call it owner or operator occupied.
Okay.
Owner or operator occupied.
So, but then should the permission be given to the operator?
I think
Not
we
the
could probably do it either way. Like, if it was the operator submitting the application, I would still want the owner's authorization as the property owner. Like, legally, we would want to make sure they were aware of it. I think you could do it both ways as long as it's documented in the approval,
Okay.
in the paperwork.
And then, so then what if the tenant leaves? Then you can't have any transient guest lodging because you don't have the operator?
Right, or you'd have to replace them, or, yeah.
Okay. All
they do have to report to us, as you saw, in the, conditions all the time. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting to know the TGL operators well because it's me who's doing it, yeah.
Okay.
So, get the closest, there's existing TGL, but there's actually not too many in this neighborhood. It's not as many. They're more concentrated in other portions. The closest one is over 1,800 feet away on 718 Green Street. And again, this actual home was approved for TGL, Transient Guest Lodging, in 2018, and it ran through a couple months ago. I think it went up for sale. Well, they actually sold it, I believe, in the August time period is when Jeff started negotiating on purchasing it. And we were interviewing the code when the TGL owner the property changes ownership, the TGL becomes void. So he had to reapply since it's a new owner. So I guess that's partially answers to your question, like if the ownership changes.
Okay. But not the operator.
I'd have to check the code, probably operator too. I'll have to check it, the code. I don't know.
Okay.
Could look real quick. Or I'll send you an email and tell you what it says.
And Jeff would need to know that too. If the operator moved, that he would have to apply.
I'm assuming it would be the owner. Here, I can just.
So what are you saying? That you'd have to get a new permit if the operator moved? No.
Oh, changed ownership is what it was. It says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only if the
As
property
long as he
changes.
had a new operator, it would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the whole reason he's here tonight, is because the ownership changed and the code says it's void, and so he's reapplying. And so then since it meets the standards of the code, I'm recommending approval with similar conditions. And there's actually 4 for this one. And I know one of them was about the fire inspection, and I know that Jeff was already working with them and had the inspection, but was waiting on the paperwork. So that's already actually been satisfied. I just need a copy of it, but just so you guys are aware. And it's just the same for conditions, that there's the fire township inspection approval, lodging permits are not transferable, required registration, and then reporting biannually. And so I'll go ahead and stand for any questions.
Questions for me? Okay. Jeff, is there anything you'd like to step up and say?
Not really.
Okay, you're okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Jeff? Okay, if not, then we need to have a public hearing. I remember. So we will open the public hearing on this. So anybody who has a comment on this transient guest lodging, feel free to come forward and state your name. Okay, we will close the public hearing. And since we've closed it, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the full conditions.
I'll second.
Thank you. Judy.
Gary.
And with the 4 conditions?
Yeah, I said that.
Yes.
All right. Zaremski,
Yes.
Osterholm,
Yes.
DeVore Leonard,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Stiles.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been approved. Congratulations. Okay, then that is our business. Any old business we need to look at? Nope. How about new business coming up? Agenda planning. So agenda planning, we know that you're going to do the housing report next month.
Okay.
That we were supposed to have in September. And so we don't know of anything else coming forward.
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Anyone else have anything that we need to discuss next time?
The only thing I've been stating, I'll just state it again, is whenever we have a slow one, we can talk about the food trucks more in depth.
Okay, could we do that then? Put that on the agenda, talk about food trucks.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just going to maybe say what you were going to say, which is us having a slow meeting doesn't necessarily mean that there is a slow capacity for Meg. So just, on these items, we understand that. So just factor in if you're, hey, I have time to do a report on a concept, great. If not, that I am very interested in talking about it at some point, but it doesn't feel particularly timely, especially with the low-income housing tax credit timing right now. There's sort of a rush to move to this, this December 1st sort of internal deadline. So this is all to say, we've been trying to be respectful of staff's time on a number of fronts, so just bring that up here too.
That's fine. We don't know about that. You know about that being on council, so yeah, if it's something like that, it can wait.
So is the expectation, is the expectation just a discussion among us?
Yeah, kind of what we
not
kind of think it should be going,
prepare
and
anything?
maybe if they could throw in, staff could throw in a little bit on that, but
Okay. Yeah.
mostly about us and how we feel and like how the future of this is going to be.
Okay.
But I think much of that was based on some work that Meg was going to do in terms of putting together an outline of the existing approvals.
That who was going to do?
Meg.
Right.
Yeah, she was
But
going to put together, the various approvals that are out there for food trucks to see how
Okay, yeah.
consistent or how much they vary, because that's, what the question is, what have we been doing?
So it sounds like, Meg was going to prepare that, is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
So maybe we should back off then and wait until after December.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fine with putting it on tentatively, as long as there's flexibility that if I don't have the time, then I'm just going to drop it.
Sure.
Since we don't have any agenda, I don't have any applications right now moving forward. I kind of reviewed all my workload before this meeting now because I know that this is coming. I can see kind of like a little bit of maybe potential availability, but it is going to take me some research, and a lot of it depends on, I have to pull all the property files and create.
Is there somebody on staff that could help with that, or volunteer or somebody?
I don't think as familiar as to what I'd be looking for yet. Maybe eventually.
Okay.
Well, that's fine. If can't have to shoot up an email for a meeting, I'm like, okay. I totally understand that. Because if you got this other crunch going on, then Gavin decided to just let us know right now.
And the next meeting is the 12th.
Correct.
Well, I guess I should ask, are you wanting us not to have a meeting next month? Would that be helpful for you? If you have this big crunch on the LIHTC.
Well, I wouldn't want anyone to get all frolicky, because if Meg gets applications and things happen between now and, maybe if Meg can make that assessment and have something go out to folks, either that, yep, there's more on the agenda and we're going to do a thing, or I'm super stressed and busy and there are no agenda items, and could we, cancel the November meeting. But my thought is you're not really going to have all that information for a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, I have to do the noticing minimally 2 weeks ahead, right? So we'll know probably by the end of next week. We'll probably should know.
So the other thing I'll throw in is, because the other topic is the topic about going over the document that Meg put in the last update. And we did that at council, so what I could easily just go in and find the exact minute that conversation starts at the council meeting, and Meg kind of did that presentation. I'm not saying we can't talk about it, but if you're wondering about more information, we did actually, she did a whole thorough explanation, and there were several questions from council. So I'll send that around for now.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. That's a good idea.
Okay, so we're leaving it that we may have a meeting or we may not have a meeting. And we'll know by the end of next week.
Yeah, the 25th. I put a note here. I'll let you know by then, if that's okay, Judy? Okay.
And I did want to ask, do we know when our next meeting will be on the third week of the month, third Tuesday?
I'd have to look at a
I
calendar.
think the next one's April. I checked
Yeah,
and she
Okay.
said that.
I just wanted to look at January and February. So
It's not this year.
Okay, great.
It's 6 months before.
And it's not,
Okay.
They don't come around too often.
Okay.
It's either 1 or 2 in any calendar year.
Okay. Okay, well, if there is not anything else, then I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Do I need to make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Our meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
Aren't you the do-gooder?
I know.